I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you know what lies within nothing?
No.
Do you know where it ends? Do you want to know?
Yes. Counterbalance, a high fantasy audio drama. Season 2, coming 15th of October 2023. Learn more on trilunas.com.
Hello, everybody. Wow. Hello. Hi.
Jenny's a little out of practice. It's been 6 weeks since you've spoken.
I have took a vow of silence.
We're back.
We are back.
Oh my gosh. It's time for season 3.
It really is.
I'm very excited.
Me too.
But
before
we get there,
we must
share with you a couple of important things.
First of all, this Sunday, September 10th at 2 p.m. Pacific, over on our Facebook page, facebook.com/bufferingcast, we will be going live to celebrate our millionth download, which happened a little bit ago. Yes. And we're going to be playing some songs and A-ing your cues and hanging out in general to celebrate and have a blast with you. So please join us. It's open to everyone. Come on down, 2 p.m. on Sunday, Pacific time.
Yes, and in the same vein in terms of saving the date, please save the date for October 14th if you're in the Los Angeles area.
Ow.
We will be doing another live taping at Nerd Melt Showroom here in Los Angeles. It may or may not be up on their calendar yet, but we want you to put it in your calendars. You can totally check out their site and see if the tickets are up yet. If they're not, they'll be up very shortly. But we want to let you know that October 14th, that is where we will be, and we hope that you will be there too.
Yes. Furthermore, you may be afraid that now that it's season 3, we don't have merch anymore, but we do! Against all odds, we are still chock full of Smash the Demon Lizard Patriarchy tees and AWOO shirts and CDs and pins designed by Kate Leth and also Christine Tuna.
Yeah.
It's all so great, and you can find it by visiting our website, bufferingthevampireslayer.com, and clicking on shop.
Yes, and on a more serious note, 2 more serious notes, we wanted to let you know that we are going to talk a little bit about everything that has happened with Joss and Joss's ex-wife, Kai, something we normally would not dig into if it didn't overlap so directly with feminism and patriarchy and other things that we talk about on this show, but we are not going to do that until the end of the show. So if you're here for that, it is at the end, but we suggest you listen to the whole thing because the episode's pretty fun. And also, since we last talked to you, the climate has done a few atrocious things, but one in particular in Houston, Texas. We know many of you listen from Houston, Texas, and we are hoping that you are all safe. We are devastated by what we are seeing in your beautiful city. We have both been to Houston. We both love Houston, and we are going to do our best to support the incredible efforts that need to happen to restore your city back to where it once was. So this month, and we have decided that we're going to do this every month for a different cause because the world is a fucking garbage fire right now. So every month we're going to do this for a different cause. In September, we're going to kick things off for Houston, for the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund in Houston. We are going to do 5 handwritten lyric sheets. They are up in our store. They cost $100 each. We'll do the full song for you or a segment from a song. You tell us what you'd like, and 100% of those proceeds, so that's $100 because we're not gonna take the money for the paper or the pen ink. So $100 of your donation will go directly to Hurricane Harvey, and we'll send you that lyric sheet in exchange. So you can find that also on our website, bufferingthevampireslayer.com. Just click on shop, and it's in our store. Again, Houston, we send you so much of our love and so much of our strength, and we hope that you are all safe and finding shelter and safety.
All right. That's all the business. Now let's get to the party. Buffering the Vampire Slayer, a podcast where we are watching and discussing every episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer one at a time in chronological order. I'm Jenny Owen Youngs.
And I am Kristen Russo. And this week we are back and we are talking about season 3. Season 3, did everybody hear that?
Season 3?
Season 3. Episode 1. Anne. Stay tuned at the end of this podcast every week for an original song written by us recapping the Buffy episode we are discussing.
Anne was written and directed by Joss Whedon and originally aired on September 29th, 1998.
This is the one where Buffy, living on her own in a big city, assists a girl whose boyfriend has mysteriously vanished. Back in Sunnydale, Buffy's friends do their best to battle the forces of evil. Not bad, IMDb.
That was a really good one.
Right? And I read it kind of like Movie Phone again.
You
did. Yeah, when I like them, I try to really get into character.
I mean,
in a world, you know.
If the actual text has a rhythm and a flow and a musicality to it, the way you read it is going to be a lot more natural.
It's not iambic pentameter, but it's something.
You're not iambic pentameter.
Wow, rude.
I know. Right at the
way
beginning
to
of the new
start,
season.
Way to start the season off on a rough foot, Jenny.
How dare you?
So how have you been, Jenny? I'm wondering because I don't see you.
We
apart
haven't
from
seen each
when
other
we do
for
the
the
podcast.
last 6 weeks. I'll tell you, Kristen Russo, some things have happened.
They really have. So Jenny and I were like, first of all, when we finished season 2 and we were like, okay, we'll see you on September 6th. Many of you were like, excuse me, I think you've written that wrong because that is a long time from now and you don't understand what you're saying. And we were like, oh yeah, okay, you're right. We took a 6-week break. And I want to say that, I think if we were doing a podcast about Buffy and just the podcast, that we probably wouldn't take a 6-week break in between seasons. But because of the fact that we're also writing the songs at the end, let me promise you all that if we didn't take a 6-week break, the like graph of song quality would slowly descend and like then it would hit sea level and it would go lower and it would get right to the Hellmouth is what I'm trying to...
Right down there. And everybody knows that the worst pop songs currently...
Yes.
in existence are all coming out of the Hellmouth.
Yes, precisely.
So we want to avoid that.
We're trying to. So we took 6 weeks off. We thought this is going to be great.
We'll catch up on our other work.
We'll relax maybe for a minute.
Yeah, we might go to the beach for one day.
Perhaps. However, some of you who follow us on social media know this already, but about 3 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, we were surprise evicted from our house. No warning. Jenny just walked out to get the mail, and there was a man she did not know, walked up to the door with a piece of paper that said, you have to get out of your house in 60 days or else. And our entire world was flipped upside down. We found a place that same night, somehow, which was really cool, but also very rushed because we had to pack up our entire home and move it in 4 days because why?
FlameCon, because we went to FlameCon.
Yes.
We finished moving the last pieces of furniture and odds and ends into the house at like 7 p.m. on Wednesday, and then we got up at 4:30 in the morning on Thursday and flew to New York for our weekend at FlameCon.
Which... We taped season 3, episode 2 live from FlameCon, so stay tuned for that next week.
Absolutely.
But and then
when we got home to our house full of boxes and bags and total disarray, Kristen got a cold. The worst cold I've ever seen Kristen have. She's never been as sick.
I was really sick.
I'm
I'm just coming out of it. I still have a little bit of the sniffles, but I was out for like a week.
And our cat also got a cold while boarding.
Right. So in the last 72 hours, we've been to urgent care twice and the vet ER once. Everyone's fine, but it has been 3 weeks, everyone. So that's our history of where we're coming to season 3 from. But we made it through. We made it through an eviction, a move, a trip to New York, horrible colds for everyone, but knock on wood, Jenny, who has maintained up until this point her health.
Holding strong for the time being.
Oh, and we are here. Even if I was as sick as I was yesterday, I think that I would have all of the energy in the world to talk about this episode.
Yeah.
Because not only are we getting to talk about season 3, episode 1, Anne, but we had the distinct pleasure of getting to interview Julia Lee, who plays in this episode Lily, becomes Anne by the end, spoilers, and who played Chanterelle in an earlier episode of the series. She came to our house, everyone. She came to our house. And we sat down and we talked with her, and we are going to share that interview with you in this episode. We really better get started.
We really better.
We have a lot to talk about.
Oh my gosh. So the Scoobies are in the graveyard. You're supposed to think maybe those are Buffy's legs, but they're not. They're Willow's. And then she's like, yeah, big boy, come and get it. And then we all look at the ground for a moment in time.
Yeah. But this is great because it leads to what I wrote in my notes as a punning call out. Because I don't think they've ever really out loud discussed Buffy's nature of throwing puns at the villains right. So that's fun. And Willow is trying to occupy Buffy's shoes by throwing a pun, although it is all cringe a little bit, but also love Willow so much.
Absolutely.
At the same time. Also, this scene, first of all, let me tell you what, that vamp, Eddie the vamp.
Andrew?
Oh, really?
Andy?
I thought his name was Eddie Holnick was what I wrote down.
I think it's Andy.
Andy
Wow.
Holnick? Whatever.
Let's talk about it for a little while longer.
These vamps are dirty when they crawl out of their graves, and it bothers me.
He looked dirty to me.
He was not dirty. His first hand came out, no dirt moved. Zero dirt. The second hand was under one small dirt pile, and then his whole body came out, and he was not dirty. But there's two things in this first bit that I loved too. One is Willow tries to fight him. They all sort of miss him. He's doing a lot of jumps and crazy moves.
Yeah, because he was on the gymnastics team.
Right, that's one of the things, is that they're like, oh, well, he used to be on the gymnastics team, right?
Right, because statistically, they're probably going to know most of the vampires since their school has such a high mortality rate.
Right, but we haven't learned, unless I'm mistaken, there has been nothing else in the series up until this one randomly placed line to let us believe that if you had abilities as a human, that you will retain those abilities as a vampire. So,
right, they all just sort of seem to come out of the ground with the same basic karate skills.
Right. So I thought this was fun. I thought, perhaps Angel had a lifetime of brooding before. He was good at it before he was a vampire. That's all I'm saying.
Right, so then it's just enhanced.
Right.
When he becomes okay, got
enhanced brooding for Eddie or Andy or whatever this gymnast vampire's name is. Enhanced gymnastic skills. And I also love, there's this beautiful culmination and the vampire is running away and Oz grabs the stake.
And he stares it down and he's and licks his finger and sticks it into the wind to see which way the wind is blowing. And then hucks that stake.
And then clank. It just lands on the, not nowhere close to it. It's really, really great. And it's a perfect snapshot of the Scoobies attempting this without Buffy.
Right.
Right? The heart is there. The energy is there. It's just the skill set.
Right. This is definitely, if this were a movie and Buffy was never coming back for the rest of the movie.
Yes.
This would be the before training montage.
Yes.
This would be their sort of Three Stooges version of trying to slay.
Yeah. It's very sweet. It's very good to see them all. But of course Buffy isn't there, and they have this conversation before they leave the graveyard about school starting the next day, and it's really sad because you can see they're all amped up on trying to fight vampires, but then reality sets in and they're like, we start school and she's still not back. There's a couple of cute moments. Willow wondering what her first homework assignment will be. Very, very sweet. And Oz, we learn in this moment, right, Oz has graduated, or so we think. Right. So Oz isn't going to be back to school. Of course, that isn't actually the truth. We will get to that. But the scene ends with Willow, right? I think it's Willow saying, I wish we knew where she was.
Yeah. Cut to.
Don't you wish you knew where she was?
She's standing on a beach in a white sweater, staring somberly out across the waves.
Oh.
But then it's revealed immediately that, of course, this isn't a real beach somewhere.
I mean, maybe in 1998. Is that what year we're still in? 1998?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in 1998 for a minute you thought she was on a beach with Angel, but this is pretty heavy-handedly a dream. And, there's this back and forth between her and Angel. If I was blind, I would see you. It's very romantic and an over-the-top way and ends, of course. This is reminiscent of that scene where Buffy is like, when I kiss you, you make me want to die, and runs away. This scene ends with, not even if you kill me. And then she wakes up.
Right, but we should also mention that she says, stay with me, and he says, like, forever. That's the whole point. It's important for us to mention that because it does come back.
It does. If you haven't watched the episode, what are you doing listening to this? Go watch the episode, but it does come back.
Then she wakes up from this dreamy nightmare. And walks to the window where there are many sirens.
Right.
blaring.
And this is, I mean, I'll probably talk about this again. I don't know. But like this whole like Skid Row thing in this episode, like I have on one hand an appreciation for the fact that we've come out of the end of season 2 where Buffy has essentially been told by her mom when she came out of the closet to not come back home. So she is like a runaway teen, and a runaway LGBTS teen, S for Slayer.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? Like if we're following the narrative, if we're following the metaphor through, that this is really following sort of a coming out trajectory, then I have a lot of respect for the fact that like this is a huge thing, right? LGBT, homeless youth, this is a huge population, a huge issue in our country and abroad, of young people who are kicked out of their homes when they come out or when they're outed, and so on and so forth. But there's like a certain something about the way the city, like the gritty city, is depicted that just rubs me the wrong way. It seems like, I just feel like this show is so imaginative and so complex in so many of its layers that it just felt a little bit like they were like, okay, how do we signal that she's like on Skid Row? And they were like, how about we pan down and there's a siren? Like, I just, you know what I mean? I don't know. I just...
it is the shortest of shorthands.
Yes,
I mean, we're trying to get to the credits here.
It is. So, and we do get to the credits.
We do, and they are new. So many things are happening. New logo. New recording of Nerf Herder playing the theme song.
Yeah.
Seth Green is in the credits.
Yeah. A lot of werewolf clips.
A lot of werewolf clips. Xander fresh out of the pool in the credits.
Giles with a fire sword in the credits. Very exciting. And everybody looks old. Like everybody looks more wizened.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like
more
because
experienced.
we watched season 2 and season 3 credits back to back just to like, at first I thought we were going to note the differences and then I was like, the entire thing is different.
Yeah.
But, you know, they all look kind of baby-faced in the season 2 credits. Even the logo looks baby-faced, and like everyone has grown up. Has seen a little bit more.
They're getting older. They're entering their 3rd season of shooting this show, which is like a lot of like really late into the night shoots. Spending a lot of time, I'm sure, on promotional events.
Wow, so
and
this
tours.
isn't even just acting. This is just actors. Jenny's theory is the actors are old and tired. And they look it in the credits. Everybody looks great.
I just think they've been doing a really hard job for, a little while.
Yeah.
Not that, I mean, some of them, they've come to the show with varying levels of experience, but this particular show, I feel like, they look like we did when we got to the end of taping season 2 of this show. Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah. If we had credits, we would definitely look older and more wizened now.
We also get a new closing shot of the credits where Buffy is holding that great sort of like semi-circular axe weapon.
Yes.
That we'll see later in this episode,
which is so great. And that comes from this episode, which is so fun. And so after the credits, we go to Buffy waiting tables.
She's just doing what every waitress does, delivering food and absorbing as much sexual harassment as she can without spontaneously combusting.
And, if we were doing this show live if we were taping this podcast as the show was airing, I would go out on a limb and I would say, I think somebody in the writer's room was listening to our podcast because they opened the whole season with the patriarchy.
The patriarchy.
Didn't they?
The patriarchy!
That was our new patriarchy jingle, created by Jenny Owen Youngs. If you didn't listen to our recap, you missed a lot. We have a few new jingles.
Yeah. The season 2 wrap up was just filthy with jingles.
Speaking of filthy, these 2 filthy men.
First of all, what are these you know how truckers are always stopping in downtown LA?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't they be at like a Love's Or a Flying J somewhere.
Yeah, true. But who knows? I don't know. I've not been to diners downtown LA. Maybe there's a couple, you know.
We will have to do some research.
Yeah, we're here. We can.
Yeah.
But yeah, this just this disgusting moment. Sure, you don't want me to work it off for you, says one of the men. And then then this one man slaps her ass. And this is a really important moment.
This is where I can't suspend my disbelief. But maybe.
No, I think this is very pointed because we've seen Buffy's ass get slapped one other time. And it was by Larry, and it was in the gym. And she flipped that fucker onto the ground in a split second. And we see her, because the camera pans right into the back of her head when it happens, and you see her look, and you see her squash it all down, right? Because it's signaling to us that, like, she's not Buffy right now. Like she is, because you see that instinct of like, I'm going to kick this guy's ass. But it's like, that's not why she's here, right? She's not here to make a scene, fight back, whatever. She's here because she wanted to disappear. I think that it's a really important moment that we see her swallow this, because we would never see Buffy swallow this in any other context. Anyway, can we talk about her hair for a second?
Go for it.
Okay, well, I'm not going to say a lot because I don't know if you have heard of Kate Leth, but Kate Leth is back in this episode, and she has a couple of things to say about hair, but my one note was, when in the hell did she have time to get these highlights done? Is what she left in her sad overalls. She walked onto the bus. She took the bus to Los Angeles, where she somehow got a job waiting tables and saved enough money to get an apartment. I don't know, whatever. But how did she, there's a little hole there for me, but it looking good.
Totally.
So shall we hear from Kate?
Let's do it.
Great.
It's time for our friend Kate to give you the Buffy Fashion Update.
Welcome back to Buffy Fashion Watch as we careen headfirst into season 3. There is so much exciting fashion to come. I cannot wait to start talking about all the pleather. But this episode starts pretty innocuously. There's not a ton of fashion standouts. Even Cordelia, aside from her sateen cloud printed pants, which are quite something, and her almost sweater set that matches her purse exactly, it's also very, very good. But the real standouts here are the haircuts, and there is nothing that I love more than a new season haircut. It is such a staple, and it is just such an enjoyment for me. This season, we get to see Willow finally get a grown-up haircut, which I'm referring to as the Claire Danes in My So-Called Life. And yeah, I checked the timelines, and it makes sense. And Buffy gets the Rachel. It doesn't stick around as far as I can remember, although she definitely has those light blonde streaks in the front for most of this season. But the Rachel, the most famous haircut of all time. And I started to talk about her having it in season 2, and then I realized, no, she gets it for real later on. And also, the timelines make sense. This would have happened after the first and second season of Friends. And I did a little bit of research into the Rachel because I've always found it really fascinating. I remember growing up and just seeing people talk about it everywhere, and every hairdresser, it was the bane of their existence, and People magazine always had it on the cover. This is the haircut. This is the thing that will change your whole life. And there is a section on Rachel's Wikipedia page about sort of, her impact or the impact of her character. And it's 5 paragraphs, and 4 of them are about her haircut. It also credits that haircut with making her the highest paid performer on Friends. Did you also know that by the 9th and 10th seasons of Friends, they were all making $1 million per episode? Although Jennifer Aniston was making slightly more than Courtney Cox. And the website credits that with her haircut. Her haircut! I can't even believe it. Anyway, it's not my favorite of Buffy's haircuts, but it is cute that it starts to vary a little bit more, and everyone gets really good looks this season. I even really like the scene in the bronze where Willow's got on that Daisy shirt with the long sleeves. She looks a little bit older. She looks like she has a little bit more style. And if you forget about the horrible purple hat she wears in like the second or third scene in the library, God, it's pretty good. I'm so excited for the rest of this season, and until then, I'll see you at the mall.
That was our friend Kate. She gave you the Buffy Fashion Update.
Thank you, Kate.
Oh.
Good to be back down the street from your mall.
Nothing pleases me more than when we get to pull in other 90s television show references into this one and compare and contrast our 90s knowledge. It's just a joy.
Wow. Truly.
Truly. So we're back at the diner, and this is when we meet Lily. Well, we're meeting this character whose name is now Lily, and her boyfriend Ricky, and they're having this conversation about what to get.
Okay, here's the thing.
Yes,
she's like, "What'll you have?" And
Yep.
Ricky's like, "What can we get for this?" And he puts on the table, I believe, 7 pennies and
counted?
like 3 nickels
Uh-huh.
and a couple of dimes.
Right.
And then they're like, "Should we get cake?" Lily says, "Should we get cake?" Ricky's like, "No, we gotta be healthy. We gotta
Yeah,
get
we should
pie.
get pie,
'Cause
right.
fruit." But let me tell you what the amount of change that they put on the table will not buy is even a slice of pie in 1998 in downtown LA.
Yeah. For those of you listening who weren't born in 1998, you could not get pie. Although I will say, here's the thing. I didn't count the change, but it was believable to me because I was a smoker in 1998, a brand new baby smoker. Don't worry, everyone.
Don't smoke,
I
kids.
quit.
Don't start smoking to try to be cool like Teen Kristen.
Oh my God, Teen Kristen. I don't know that you would classify her as cool, but I remember because I smoked for 7 years, and by the end of my smoking journey, it cost a lot of money to buy a pack of cigarettes. But at the beginning in 1998, I could scrounge around in the bottom of my car for change and come up with enough change to buy a pack of cigarettes because it was like $2 or something.
First of all, it's really troubling to me that you were just like throwing change on the floor of
I
your
was
car
throwing
all
everything.
willy-nilly. That is unacceptable.
Did you always keep a clean car?
Yeah.
Wow, even as a teen?
Yeah.
My car was a living nightmare. Like my parents were always like, what, why, how, you know? Like,
I too would like to know why and how.
I mean, I was a teen. I had things to do, like buy cigarettes with my change.
Okay.
Come on. Anyway, Lily, who we have met already as Chanterelle,
Yes.
recognizes Buffy. And this is another moment where we're like, oh, Buffy is like super hiding, right? Because as soon as Lily is like, do I know you? Buffy is out. She's like, I don't feel well. Cover my shift. Bye.
Right. But Buffy doesn't cut out before Lily and Ricky show her their matching tattoo.
Yes.
And she's like, whoa, that's pretty permanent. And Ricky echoes Angel from her dream nightmare by saying, yeah, forever. That's the whole point.
Right.
Ah.
Yeah, which is weird. How did he know? Then we cut to the library, which is hoppin'. The library?
Never seen a fraction of that many people in the library.
The entire school is in the library.
So Giles works at the library primarily for 1 day per year.
Yes.
Right? He's
First day of
hired
school.
all year so that he can definitely be there to absorb the extreme shockwaves on day 1 of school.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what, a lot of satisfaction. What do you call that stuff that, like, when people like watching, like, people pop, like, bubble wrap or whatever? It's like
ASMR?
Yeah, ASMR. I had a little bit of that when he was scanning the barcodes with the little pen with the light on it. Just an extreme sense of satisfaction.
Wow.
From that moment. So whatever. The library is hopping. Now, briefly, Kate mentioned this, but I just want to take a moment for Cordelia's. I called it a sweater set. I mean, Kate's the expert here. Kate knows.
Right. We defer to her expertise.
This like lime green yellow situation.
She looks great.
She looks real good.
She looks like a cup of sherbet.
She does. And you know who else looks like a cup of sherbet, but in a very different way, is Willow.
Yeah.
With this purple hat. I mean,
No.
this has to be one of Willow's more famous hats. I've seen it a lot on the internet. It's quite a choice. But you know, it's the first day of school.
Right.
And the first day
Dressed
of school.
to impress.
Yeah, you got to pick your best stuff. And for Willow, the purple hat. The purple hat is it. So Cordelia and Xander have this whole thing going on where they're just losing their minds.
They're really excited to see each other, but they don't want each other to know.
Right.
And they're both convinced that the other person lost interest over the summer. Mind you, so Cordelia apparently went on vacation the day after school ended and didn't get back till last night.
Right. Very true.
She hasn't seen Xander all summer.
In my mind, Cordelia went to Dirty Dancing and came back, right?
Oh my God.
Like 100%.
Yes.
Cordelia, if you just followed Cordelia, you'd watch the movie Dirty Dancing, but Cordelia would be I think Cordelia would be the older sister. Sorry. I mean, she wouldn't. Cordelia would be Penny. Let's be real. Cordelia would be Penny, I think.
My very gauzy memories of Dirty Dancing line
Penny
up with
is
that.
the one that Patrick Swayze is like,
helping out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the coolest person in Dirty
Right.
Dancing. And I think it's Penny.
It's totally Penny.
So, anyway, right, they're back. They're doing this whole dance, and what's hilarious?
Oh, sorry.
No, I just think it's hilarious how that whole thing ends.
Right.
Is like, I'm gonna this and I'm gonna that, and he's gonna this and he's gonna that, and then we finally see them get together, and they have nothing to say to each other. They sort of sputter out and kind of fight, but not really, and that's the end of it. What were you gonna say, Jenny? Because I want to talk about what leads us to this.
Right. I was going to say towards the beginning of this scene, when Willow and Cordelia first start talking, and Willow's like, how was your summer? And Cordelia's response is, I can't believe you brought that up.
Yeah.
Which is so great.
It really is. And this camera work, I mean, we don't often talk about camera work on the podcast, but this is an incredible shot. This shot starts with Cordelia and Willow outside of the library, and it winds us through just like Oz and Willow. Then we get to Willow, Oz, and Xander. Then we get Larry walking by, which I want to talk about. Then we get, there's like a million cuts and angles, and this reminded me of like a scene from West Wing Weekly with the walking.
The West Wing?
Oh. Shut up.
I don't think they're doing walk and talks on West Wing Weekly
Yeah,
yet.
they are. You just can't see them. They're walking the whole time.
Yeah.
Right, the West Wing, not to be confused with the West Wing Weekly. I just thought it was incredible and worth noting. Oz is still in school. Oz, we find out, did not do summer school.
Right.
He's back,
Whoops, forgot to do
which is
summer
convenient
school.
for the show. It's a lot easier to have Oz involved in the storyline if Oz is attending high school. We have Xander say this horrible comment about heat and ducking and covering. I don't like it. No, thank you. No, thank you. And then Larry. I love this moment.
Oh my God.
Larry. First of all, it's all about egg whites. Larry shouts. It's all about egg whites.
I love it.
And
He's
then-
like, egg white's good, mysterious death's bad.
Yeah, he's like, if we can focus, keep discipline, and not have so many mysterious deaths, Sunnydale is gonna rule. It's just, it's such a great line. It's such a great line, and it's such a good moment. Larry, we love you. Yes.
I do want to say before we leave this long, beautiful, artfully crafted walk and talk. So West Wing Weekly doesn't.
I gotcha.
Yeah, they got me, fuckers. West Wing doesn't start until 1999, I believe.
Right.
Right. This is 1998, and I recall from the commentary of an episode, a very important episode in season 5, where there is a similar long walk and talk that visits multiple people over the course of itself, where the director of that episode talks about just really being influenced by Paul Thomas Anderson, who famously directed movies that are full of long-ass walk and talks like Boogie Nights and Magnolia. Boogie Nights came out in 1997. So if we're gonna guess what the inspiration for this long scene is, I'm gonna say PTA, Boogie Nights.
Wow,
That's
Boogie
my
Nights.
guess.
Let's watch that again.
Oh my
someday
God.
soon. What a
Yes.
great. I love Boogie Nights. It was a revolutionary movie of its time.
Most
Really.
definitely.
I mean, God, it really was such a big deal.
Yeah.
You said 97? So yeah,
Mhm.
that, as a 17-year-old, that was like,
Oh, yeah.
movies are so cool.
Yeah.
Like, Okay, so that's the walk and talk. That's the scene we get in this school. Now we cut back to this, and this is what I'm talking about heavy-handed, like fine with the siren, but really a can
Of
I mean,
SpaghettiOs?
A can might as well be a can of beans, guys.
Well,
Come on.
Here's the thing.
Like she has
having
enough.
a hard time. She's too sad to worry about whether or not she's being a cinematic cliche.
Okay, that's true. Have you ever eaten out of a cold can before?
Yes.
'Cause I have.
Yeah.
When did you eat out of a cold can?
Oh, I'm sure when I was very sad or very young.
Yeah, I was very tired and ill and on tour, and I didn't have.
Ugh.
I just all the restaurants
I
in that
remember
city were closed.
Those cans.
Yes, and it was very sad. So it does happen, but it just I don't know. I just need a little.
It's
bit
again
more.
the shortest of hands. There's a lot happening in this episode. A lot
Right.
to explain.
There is, and this is the first time that we see somebody. This I think it's an old woman in the first shot who says, "I'm no one."
Right.
Bringing us into what I would like to call our Game of Thrones parallel. This episode. Listen, Jenny, I am no one.
You think that underground place we're going to is the House of Black and White?
I do. I think it's the origin story for the God of Many Faces. What's his name?
The God of Many Faces.
Yeah. The many-faced God. I think there's a tie-in here because you know what? On top of everyone having to say, I am no one, who are you? I am no one. I have no name. What's his face? Ken falls through the floor and pulls off his rubber face.
Right. That's excellent.
The parallels
excellent
are
point.
everywhere.
A lot of rubber faces in the House of Black and White.
Yes. So I'm just saying, you know what? I think down there somewhere, the God of Many
Jack and Hagar is chilling.
Jack and Hagar is down there, man. Anyhow, then we also see it cuts to Giles. And
right.
We learn that Giles, of course, who loves to break our hearts, has been has just been following all these leads trying to find Buffy.
Of course he has.
Of course he has.
And he's off to check on another one, right?
Yes. He's off to San Francisco. Is that where he's going?
Oakland.
Not to be confused with San Francisco.
Well, I mean,
I'm so sorry.
Often to be confused.
Yes, I've gotten in trouble for that before, but I know you're a different city, Oakland. I know you're a different city than San Francisco. Everyone calm down.
So Buffy's out for a late night stroll on Skid Row, as you do.
Of course, yes.
And who should come up behind her but Lily, first calling out Anne, and then calling out Buffy,
Wow.
indicating that she has put the pieces together.
Mm-hmm. And we get Lily's whole backstory.
Right. She's like, I used to hang with this group of people who like worship vampires back then.
And Buffy has like no time for it. She's like, okay, yes, I remember. Jesus, yes, fine. Right. And, but there's something that happens between the two of them too here where like Lily is really reaching out to Buffy and saying, listen, I know how it is when you need to get lost. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like we might not have been on the same plane when we were in Sunnydale, but like here, I've kind of been walking this path for a long time. And so if you want help or if you want to talk or if you want whatever, maybe you want to come to this party with me.
There's a rave.
There's a
house
rave.
rave.
Yes. And in this day and age, it's not as common to hear somebody say, hey, there's a rave happening in so-and-so's basement. But I do want to say that in the 90s, there were a lot of raves.
Yeah, I think I was thinking when we were watching it, like, oh my God, a rave? Like, that is the last thing I would like to be invited to. But then, like, thinking back to my 1998 self, if somebody had been like, want to go to this rave, I would be like already in their car.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I went to raves. I mean, listen, I don't know. I don't know the like textbook definition of a rave, but I definitely went to things where people had lots of glow sticks.
Right. I think that's the
dancing,
number one ingredient.
And a lot of them were on
number
ecstasy.
Number three ingredient.
Right.
Glow sticks, dancing,
and ecstasy. That's how you make a rave, right?
Yeah.
That's okay. So
bring it to a boil and then cover and simmer till the morning light.
So anyhow, then of course, Buffy is saying like, no, I can't. It's too many people for me right now. And she's really actually trying to say like, it's like, I actually might want to spend time with you, but I can't go to a party right now. It's too overwhelming for me.
Right.
And then this man walks through saying, well, he doesn't say anything at first. He walks out into the middle of the street saying, I am no one.
Yep.
Second time we hear it, Buffy like saves him from getting hit by a car, but for some reason gets hit by the car.
We've seen her push Cordelia out of the way of a UPS truck
and stay out of the way herself.
Yes. But for some reason she did it the other way this time.
Yeah, she got hit by a car, but obviously she's fine because she's, one girl in all the world, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh my God, are you
making
okay?
a fuss, and she just doesn't want to be seen by anyone.
She doesn't. She just said she doesn't like a lot of people around her. So she runs off into one of the alleyways. Very nice to see that Los Angeles equipped with all of the alleys that a Slayer needs.
Yep. Just like home.
Yep. And she runs right into Ken. And this is the first time we meet Ken. I love Ken.
Ken is great.
Ken is a great villain. I believe Ken to be a great villain. And we meet him and he's like, whatever, you look lost and this isn't a place for kids and like you should come to this house and I'll give you hope and da 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 da. and then the music starts to play, doesn't it? It starts to play. I called it a Sarah McLachlan moment, even though we looked it up and this is Belly Love. Belly Love is the name of this band playing at the Bronze, but the music starts with a montage. And again, I'm sorry, none of it felt real enough to me. I don't know and I wish I had like a more eloquent way of digging into why I just felt, you know when you watch those videos of the puppies, that's why I called it the Sarah McLachlan thing. Right. And it's like, really, where did you get the footage for? I don't know about, it just felt a little heavy-handed.
Do you know what I think?
What do you think?
I think a lot about, I'm trying to remember, maybe the person that I've heard talk about this is Joanna Robinson, friend of the pod, Joanna Robinson. And forgive me if I'm miscrediting, but the idea that there are pre-9/11 movies and post-9/11 movies, and that like American Beauty is like the example that I recall of like a movie that wouldn't have gotten made after 9/11 because like the way the issues that it dealt with were like not sort of like global. You know what I mean? It was like totally personal and like very white and just like very sort of like singular, and like in a post 9/11 world, a movie like that feels less meaningful and like less heavy. And like I feel, maybe I'm off the mark here, but I feel like this little montage 20 years later feels like just sort of like a cartoon of what, the way that we think about things now.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about, so My So-Called Life is a show that I did watch as it aired, and there's a very, very famous, can you even call it a famous episode when there's like 13 episodes total?
There's 19 episodes?
Sorry, 19 episodes. But the Christmas episode,
starring Juliana Hatfield?
Yes, guest starring Juliana Hatfield as a homeless young person, and I should go back and rewatch that. I mean, let's be real, we should go back and rewatch that whole series.
Absolutely.
And we should do a podcast about it. Okay, great. We'll be doing that. We see, like, I feel like at the time I was like, this is the most meaningful, powerful, impactful thing. And I was so like proud of the show for showing this. And so I imagine that had I watched this in 1998, you're right, I would have been in a different mindset and I would have felt very differently about it. And I still have appreciation for it. They don't gloss it over. They are, the show is attempting to say like, hey, this is a problem that like young kids are homeless and have been kicked out of their homes and da-da-da-da. But whatever. You're right. American Beauty. On and on and on. We don't need to go too much further. But Belly Love is playing. It's very depressing. Xander even calls it depressing when we cut to the bronze. He says something very problematic, which is he's really jealous because he thinks that Cordelia may have had an affair with Pedro the Cabana boy.
Xander.
Jesus. And then he's
oh my God, that should be a segment. Xander. And then we spray him with a water bottle.
Oh my God. Okay, great.
Get off the table.
But he's super, he has some shitty moments in this. This is one of them. But then like he's feeling really jealous and he's feeling really dejected. And his fucking move is to be like, I know what we fucking need. I know what we've been missing. We need Cordelia to be fucking bait. Like,
right. And also based on, he sees Cordelia at the same time we see Cordelia basically when he's like bait. Xander is dealing with his feelings of insecurity about their relationship by saying shitty things and wanting to put Cordelia in danger. Cordelia is dealing with it by showing up at the bronze looking amazing.
Yeah! And
Xander, why didn't you do that instead?
Do I sense a Cordelia jingle coming on?
Cordelia, I love you, Cordelia. You're perfect, Cordelia.
Oh, how we love you, Cordelia. Always and forever. You know who else I love? Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce.
Oh, we go to the scene with Joyce and Giles and Joyce. Joyce is blaming Giles.
Love it.
Joyce is taking, I feel like you've taken her away from me, she says.
I mean, imagine if you were a parent.
Yeah.
And like this other adult had this totally like close and unknown to you until very recently relationship with your kid.
Yeah, no, I'm totally team Joyce on this one. I mean, not that I think that Giles did anything wrong, but like I really understand where she's coming from emotionally.
Right.
And then Giles bats back. I didn't make Buffy who she is. Still some undertones, I want to say, of this like coming out arc, right? The parent thinks that who the kid's been hanging out with is the reason that the kid is who the kid is.
Right.
Not true. The kid is who the kid is because the kid is who the kid is. So
Well
I
said.
give advice
My
for
beautiful,
a
articulate
living.
wife.
So this is the exchange here. And then we cut back to the diner. And in the diner, Lily comes up to Buffy now. And this is a pivotal moment for the character of Lily because she says, Buffy, she's lost Ricky. She can't find Ricky. And she goes right to Buffy and she says, you know how to do stuff. I don't know what to do. And she's asking Buffy for help. Now, we had, as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we had the chance to sit down with Julia Lee Stander, who was Julia Lee back when this was filmed. And we were able to talk to her about this character, about her work on the show, about her audition, about so many fun things. And we're going to share with you that interview as a part of this episode. But before we get there, a word, Jenny, from some.
Support for today's episode comes from OneSkin. And if you have sensitive skin, you're going to want to hear about their scientifically proven topical supplements. Free from over 1,500 chemicals and preservatives that can make skin red, irritated, or itchy, their products are safe for sensitive skin. It's just one of the reasons they've earned the skin-safe seal of approval.
They've also earned the Jenny Owen Youngs and Kristen Russo seal of approval, if I do say so myself, Jenny.
I couldn't agree more. I've been using OneSkin for a few months, and after a few weeks, I remember it like it was yesterday. I texted Kristen and I was like, maybe she's born with it. I looked in the mirror that morning and was like, oh, things are happening. And I am happy.
I have used a million billion skin products and I did not think that I was going to switch off of the skin lotion, the moisturizer that I used and the under eye cream that I use because I have used them for a little while and I really like them. And I've switched completely, which is a pretty big deal. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. Get started today with 15% off using code BUFFERING at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code BUFFERING. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, and if you can, please tell them that we sent you.
As a podcast network, our focus is bringing you shows you love to listen to. But we also sell merch related to those shows. And partnering with Shopify has made that both possible and simple for us to do. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor adventures, Shopify helps you sell everywhere because they've got you covered from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. What's so fantastic about Shopify is how, no matter how big you want to grow, they provide everything you need to get control of your business so you can take it to the next level. Businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/realm.
Hello, I'm Simon Jack.
And I'm Zing Sing.
And together we host Good Bad Billionaire, the podcast exploring the minds, the motives, and the money of some of the world's richest individuals.
Every episode, we pick a billionaire and we find out how they made their money.
And then we judge them. Are they good, bad, or just another billionaire?
Good Bad Billionaire from the BBC World Service.
Listen now wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
Some of our sponsors.
So, wow. Today, we are so delighted to have the opportunity to speak with Julia Lee Stander, who you may know from this very episode we are discussing in the role of Lily and then later Anne. Wow.
Yeah, and in this episode, but first as Chanterelle.
That's right. Hello.
And then as Lily, and eventually as Anne.
That's right.
Have to be the only character that it has had that many names in the series.
Right?
And I don't even think we know her real name, her given name.
Right. Although I think the internet...
There's a deep dig. I think maybe it's been established post-show in the later comic arc.
Oh, okay.
That, just so you know.
Just so you know.
I'm in the loop, too.
Your given name is Joan.
Okay.
But that's never revealed
in
Buffy.
in the series. Yeah. When we did our digging, we were like, oh, interesting. Joan and
that was news to us. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. We thought it would be fun to start at the beginning, sort of like where are you from and how did you come to acting in the first place?
Well, grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and fell in love with theater in high school.
Same.
And I mean, it's a wonderful thing to do at that stage of your life, and it's quickly addictive. And came out to pursue a theater degree in California at UC Irvine. Nice. And took off from there, came up to Los Angeles in 1997.
Nice.
And
so this was
weeks after I graduated from college.
Wow.
Whoa. Yeah.
That's wild.
That same summer.
Oh my gosh. So how did you come to the audition?
So I actually auditioned for a different episode of Buffy. I think it had to do with a sorority in...
or a fraternity?
Fraternity, maybe.
Yeah.
Of young men.
It was a smaller part, and I auditioned for that, and I did not get it. And then I got a call to come in for this a few weeks later, and she was supposed to originally be a nerdy goth girl. And I got a page on my pager because it was 1997 on the way to the audition saying, well, they've rewritten the part and there's new material and they've sort of changed the character and she's going to be more sexy than nerdy. And I looked at what I was wearing and went, well, they get what they get because I'm already in the car. Right. So I guess I'll try to drive faster. And I got there to, look at the material and usually there's many, many people in that waiting room. Mm-hmm. Of course, that day, nope, nobody.
Oh, wow.
Really? I walked in and they went, so whenever you're ready.
Whoa.
I went, well, all right, can I have a minute to, look at the new material first?
Yeah.
And they said, oh, sure, yeah, go ahead, take your time. And then I looked it over. Certainly did not have time to be off book, but I just went, all right, well, here we go. We'll walk in. And in a lovely turn of events, there was a guy sitting in the corner with overalls and Doc Martens and a baseball cap, and I thought he was the assistant. And they put me on tape, and I did my audition, and then I left, and 45 minutes later, I got a call, and they went, all right, so you're booked. And I went, what? I had no call back.
Whoa.
And they, how did that even happen? Of course, I show up on set, and the guy in the corner is not the assistant. He's Joss.
Better that you didn't know,
probably. I think way better that I didn't know because he kept such a low profile and just, kind of giggled to himself at a couple of the lines.
Right.
And then, and so there it was.
Wow. What a entry experience into post-college acting.
Yeah, I know.
So you come into the audition, you get the role right away, and it's supposed to be, it sounds like a one episode role of Chanterelle.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have any idea at the time that there would be any extension, or how did
anyone
happen?
No, I don't know if they even thought about that or knew about it. I didn't get a call until probably 9 or 10 months later, and it was out of the blue for me. And they said, hey, so we want to expand this character. Would you be interested in coming back? Let me think about that.
Yeah. I have questions. I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about. I have questions just about being on set and being with the other actors and what that experience was like. Did you watch the show? That's a good starting place. Did you watch Buffy, or have you watched the series?
Yes, and when I did the first episode as Chanterelle, and I had never seen it before then, but when I went in for the audition, I think I watched an episode before then,
mm-hmm.
and then when I found out I got the role, then I just started watching, and then I watched it from there on.
Right.
And so I was familiar with what the characters then had been through all the way to where I was coming back in.
Sort of like you had been following them on social media, but
yeah, it was a little intimidating, because then they were larger than life to me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I first came in, I went, oh, okay, I don't really know what I'm getting into. I know a little bit. I tried to do some research and some homework, but now it's there's a whole world.
Right. Right. Do you have specific memories of times on set, whether it's from that first episode as Chanterelle or this episode, Anne, specifically, that come to mind?
Yeah. I mean, well, the first episode, the hair and makeup and wardrobe people did such a good job. And then all of the extras, I think, were goth kids that they had in that club.
Right.
And, I've just assumed that that's how I was found too. And didn't really think about, oh, well, this is not how I showed up, because they did show up on set like that.
Yeah.
They had done their own amazing hair and makeup, and they had these awesome outfits, and they did invite me to, I think it was a goth volleyball game.
What?
was
California thing I think I've ever heard.
I remember being very surprised at that, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. It just seems like the makeup would run. You know
I know.
Yeah, right.
Sports and like goth general
Right, and
appearance.
also direct sunlight and goth.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Yeah.
the most
Well,
intuitive.
you're picturing beach volleyball. Maybe
Oh,
was
right.
it beach volleyball or was
I don't
you didn't
remember.
Indoor, like lights off
I don't
volleyball,
remember.
infrared volleyball,
Right.
night vision
Black
goggle
light
volleyball.
Yeah. Black light volleyball. Well, and one of the questions I had too was about your preparation for the roles. Obviously when you were preparing for Chanterelle, you didn't yet know that there would be a Lily, but what did that look like on either end? Because they're the same person and at different phases of life, but very different environment.
Yeah, I think, for Chanterelle, she feels more a part of mainstream society. She's got friends, or at least people she thinks are her friends, and she seems to be more social and at least have access to some kind of hair and makeup and clothing. It's not clear where she gets this all from,
Right.
but she has fallen on really hard times, and she's about as lost as you can be when we see her the next time as Lily. And you can only imagine that her home life was bad enough that she will not acknowledge it, even when Buffy asks her directly, and that she is happier living in abandoned warehouses and, having greasy hair than going back to anything she knew.
Was there conversation on the set? Because this episode, Anne, is really rooted in like homeless youth. And I wonder what the conversation was. I have no idea what it's like on a television set, but if there was a conversation around the reality of this and integrating that into the preparation for the episode or the role.
We did shoot in downtown Los Angeles, near Skid Row. And it was, painfully ironic that we had extras playing homeless children, and in one of the scenes with Ken, the social worker, I remember we shot that outside against the front of a building, and I could look across the street and there were just lines of tents. So there was definitely a cognizance of what was happening, and I think the locations were chosen on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for us too, we're coming out of the arc. I guess you said you listened to the last episode. We talked a lot about Buffy, how she's just sort of like come out to her parent and then has run away from home and sort of been kicked out of her home. It skirts the line because Joyce does want her back. But, that's at play too here, which is, testament to the show of giving those things visibility and bringing light to those things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the real like wallop of an arc that takes place for your character just in this one episode. You come back into Buffy's orbit and you are at a very low point, lost. You've got one person that you're clinging to, and then that person disappears. And then by the end of the episode, you are essentially responsible for defeating Ken, the evil demonic social worker.
Yes.
Who I dislike, but kind of like.
Played
well, he's a really nice guy, from what I remember in real life. So maybe he couldn't quite hide all of that. I don't know.
He came across as a likable demon who you probably want to die, but Sorry, Jenny. I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought.
And I feel like Lily takes strength from Buffy, and Buffy also learns from Lily, and like ultimately I think Lily helps Buffy realize that she can go home.
So I watched this episode yesterday with my daughter who'd never seen it before.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
And the first thing she said was, "Mommy, your voice sounds so different." And I said, "Well, look at who this character is. I mean, she's as lost as you can get. And that comes through. It comes through in her body language, and it comes through in her voice. And she's just very insecure, and also looking for guidance, for sure. Like, she tends to follow strong personalities.
Right.
There she was in the vampire cult. There she was following Ricky. There she was saying, oh, I used to follow this. Who was it? It was a preacher. And I called myself Sister Sunshine.
Yeah, Sister Sunshine.
But she finally takes that and gets it right when she focuses her energy on Buffy.
Yes.
And she says to herself, this is someone, I don't think she's ever had a role model like that in her life, or probably she would have been following them.
Right.
And so here she is seeing for the first time someone that's a woman that's taking charge. And no, Lily doesn't have, superhuman powers or anything, but I think it plants a seed for her.
Yeah. And that's sort of Buffy. That's like sort of the series in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Is that strength, is like giving that strength, letting people know that they also have that strength, whether or not they're like a slayer or not, if they have magical powers or not, that like we all sort of walk with that strength in us.
Yeah.
You mentioned watching the episode with your daughter, and I just wonder, you said a little bit, but I would love to hear what that experience is like for you and for her, and if she had questions, and or does she want to watch Buffy the series?
I think she for sure wants to watch the series. She's big into fantasy too. She loves Percy Jackson and Harry Potter, and she's she kind of refuses to read anything that isn't fantasy right now. So
Awesome.
I think she's, primed. She's the key demographic here as she gets older.
Yeah.
I did have to point out a couple of times, that, okay, you see the guy that's the demon. He's a really nice guy. He had to spend a solid couple of hours in hair and makeup to look like that.
Right.
And anyway, I get the better of him. Just watch.
Yeah. Anyway, Mom wins.
That's right. That's right.
Mom, it is pretty cool to show your child a character where you are the one to defeat the demon.
Yes.
Especially on the heels of Wonder Woman, Like,
Yeah. Before we started taping, Julia was telling us that she saw Wonder Woman with her daughter. Did you feel when you took your daughter to see Wonder Woman like you were bringing her into something? You know what I mean?
Yes. And I enjoyed that experience so much. And I, multiple times would look over at her to see what her reaction was and, what she was getting. And I know for a 9-year-old, she's getting different things than what I'm getting. But I teared up multiple times watching that movie just because I was so happy to see a strong, solid female character. And of course, I know that there's a female director, and just the beauty with which that all came together. It was a wonderful experience to take her to that. And I hope to do it again and again and again.
Right. This will
probably be the first in many of woman-centering, woman-directed superhero films, right?
I mean, it could
only make sense.
It may not have been, but I think that like what is on our side is that not only was it brilliant, but it also was like a box office smash. And that's going to help, I think, get more for all of us.
Money is the bottom line in Hollywood. So. As
long as we want to pretend.
The universal language.
Yeah, right. Well, before we wrap up, it would be cool to talk a little bit about how your character then continues. Because we've all just seen you go from, we've met you as Chanterelle, in a very interesting set of circumstances. Then we've seen you grow and, change and reappear as Lily, and we leave you as Anne. And then we go over to Angel, and there you are again. And so how did that, was that another like couple of years passed?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, they asked me to come in and read some of the scenes because they said, all right, she's undergone a pretty big arc by this point, and we only know you as the character who's very lost and doesn't know what she's looking for, and she can't take care of herself. And then here she is, and she's done a 180-degree turn with her life, and we want to make sure that you can project authority and confidence, and that you're someone that these teenage kids would listen to.
Yeah.
So I went in and I read some of the scenes, and they went, okay, yeah, we're good. So, that was, and but that seed was planted. That seed was planted by Buffy you know? And at the last scene, you know, Anne says, or Lily, I'm not very good at taking care of myself, you know, first things first. And, you know, Buffy says, well, it gets easier. And, you know, can I be Anne? And then she took, you know, that role model. Buffy is that role model. And I think when she's, you know, in that alternate universe hell, she sees that she's not alone. Like, there are all these other kids, and Buffy gives her the responsibility of, you know, you take these kids and you go down this way.
Yeah.
And Lily looks at her like, I don't know if I can do that, you know? And Buffy's like, just go. And she does it. And then, you know, she has some success with that, you know, enough that it gives her the confidence to push Ken off the edge.
Right.
And I think from that, she realizes, you know, that whole experience, yes, I'm capable of more than I thought I was. And also, I'm not alone. Like, there are other kids out there that are experiencing the same thing as me.
Right. Which is huge, which is, you know, sometimes I think for many of us, that's bigger than finding the strength itself. It's like seeing that other people struggle too.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say too, I think that Anne Lily is the character that means so much to so many people who watch the series, because we have, like, Buffy, obviously we have Buffy, this very strong character, and there are tons of strong female characters, but I think Lily occupies a space where we meet a character who really is struggling when we first meet her to take ownership of herself. And so that arc is very specific in the series, I think, for people who are feeling like, well, I'm not even starting, you know, when Buffy starts, you know, she's sort of like a snotty Los Angeles, like, doesn't care, you know, so she has like some form of confidence in herself already. And even Willow, you know, these characters are they have sort of like a little bit more of a semblance of self. And I think watching the series, for a lot of people, especially girls and women, seeing in your character, Lily, that like, I don't know if I can do this, to then you pushing him off the thing is just a very important arc for so many of us to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that she came back and helped and, you know, made a role for herself in the world.
Yeah. And used, like, drew on all of that experience being lost to help other people who are lost.
Yeah. The best path is to, using the experiences you've had to help others. Do you have people reach out to you? Like, is Buffy a part of your life now where people recognize you or sort of reach out to you to talk about Buffy or beyond? Like, you know, is it still current?
Occasionally. I think twice in the past year I've been out at various places, and somewhat like I think I was at Michael's Arts and Crafts.
No, yes! The best place in America.
And the man at the checkout counter looked up and asked me if I had been on Buffy and Angel.
That's awesome. Are you a fan of, I mean, you mentioned your daughter is a fan of fantasy. Are you a fan as well? Like, is that a genre that you are interested in still?
Yeah, definitely. We're reading The Hobbit together right
Oh,
now.
that's so nice.
That's rad. That's so rad. Yeah. And you're producing now, right? That's so you transitioned from doing more primarily acting to do more primarily producing?
Yes.
What led you on that path?
My husband. He was doing post-production, and then we sort of, you know, were thinking that intellectual property is where it's at. Yeah. So we started, you know, pitching original ideas and concepts around, and one of them landed at HGTV, and they went with it. And now I have 2 projects that are in development with them right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's so
exciting.
That's exciting.
Hoping for some good news in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. So. Great. Does that mean that you have ideas about our home, how we can improve it?
No, I find the talent. I don't profess to be the talent in that way.
That's good, because I don't want any knowing eyes in here.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today about this. It is a delight to meet you and to have had this conversation.
Truly. This is our start to season 3. And what an incredible thing to have you as a part of the episode. So special.
My absolute pleasure.
Awesome.
It's been really fun.
Well, let us know when your daughter starts watching the series. And if, down the line she has any thoughts and she wants to chime in season 4 or 5, whatever, we'll have her on the show.
She has a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions.
Great.
So you can count on that.
Our door is always open. What is your daughter's name?
Sienna.
Our door is always open to Sienna.
All right.
With her Buffy thoughts.
Yes.
What a lovely person.
Oh my gosh. Like, so lovely. Like, because let me tell you what, when I think about the character of Lily, I think a lovely person. Character of Anne, whatever. Lovely person, lovely, sweet person. Julia is just the nicest. Oh, we had the most wonderful time with her. Thank you so much again for being a part of the show and helping us kick off the start of season 3. It's just so wonderful in all the ways. So let's talk about the blood bank, shall we? Because this lady in the blood bank,
she's got no poker face.
She has no poker face. They're like, "Where's Ricky?" And then she's like, "Ricky's not here." And then they like leave, and the camera pans to the lady at the blood bank, and she legit looks into the camera. She's like, "Dun dun dun."
It's really good.
It's so fucking funny.
We haven't seen anything like that since A Werewolf in Love.
Yes, exactly. And then of course, Buffy and Lily go split ways to search for Ricky, and Buffy comes upon Ricky. What chance, by the way?
Right.
It's a great chance that she stumbles upon him.
Well, she actually stumbles upon an old man. In fact, the same old man who pushed through them, who she pushed out of the way of traffic earlier.
Wait, what?
It's Ricky is an old man. She comes across an old man who has drank Drano.
The man that she pushed out of the way of the car was
guy.
Ricky?
Yeah.
I didn't even know it.
Oh my God. And he was totally trying to kill himself.
We've watched the episode
Oh my God.
712 times. I swear to you, I didn't notice. So listen, there's at least one person listening to this who also didn't notice, and I am here for you to make you feel seen. So, Ricky tried to kill himself the first time by stepping in front of a car. He didn't succeed, so he drank some Drano.
Right, and Buffy, of course, knows it's him because of the tattoo, which she had seen earlier that day at the diner.
I'm confused about why they're even redisposed into the streets. Like, why don't they just let them die in the dungeon?
Maybe they have limited real estate. Maybe human bodies don't decompose the same way in that atmosphere that they do in Earth's atmosphere.
Oh.
Human Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah. So anyway,
lots to talk about.
Buffy goes and tells Lily that
who's already inside of Buffy's apartment.
Yes,
interesting.
Because honestly, this is what I think happened. Buffy was like, "We'll split up," and Lily was like, "Right, so I'll go with you," because that's what really happened.
Right.
And then Buffy was like, "No, we're gonna split up," and Lily was like, "I can't do that," and Buffy was like, "You stay here, just sit down, and I'll deal with this." So Buffy comes back to tell Lily that Ricky is dead, and she does it kind of shittily.
Oh my God.
Because she's got her own shit going on.
Right. Well, she does it shittily because she's got her own stuff going on, but she also does it in like a TV way where she's like, Ricky's dead. And Chanterelle's like, no. And
Chanterelle?
Oh my God.
She's Lily now?
Sorry. Lily is like, no. And Buffy's like, there's something else. He's like 80. And Lily very reasonably is like, that's not Ricky, dumbass. And Buffy's like, you're just going to have to trust me and also deal with it. Your boyfriend's dead.
Right? Literally.
Which is what Buffy is saying to herself on the inside.
Right, of course. These things happen all the time, she says to Lily.
Buffy, I don't know if it's really an all the time thing for most people.
And Lily, who is like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Reasonably,
turns the tables on Buffy and is like, you know what? Maybe you fucking did this. Every time I'm fucking with you, there's bad shit happening. So maybe you brought the monster. Not a bad theory, not correct, but I understand the reasoning.
Totally.
So Lily leaves because they've gotten in a fight, runs into Ken. Everybody's always running into fucking Ken, man. Now, I love Ken for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons I love Ken so much is that he does not lie, right? Ricky's with us now, he says. Not a lie. That's the truth. Ricky is no more dead than I am. Says Ken. Not a lie. Also, totally the truth. So Lily, of course, Lily, as we talked about in the interview with Julia, is really lost and is very much following whatever comes her way at this point. So she goes with Ken. And meanwhile, Buffy is like, fuck this noise. I'm heading to the fucking blood bank. And this is great.
So good.
This is like when she gets her spark back. Because you can tell, when we get to the fight scene later on, like, Buffy is like, I am so fucking ready to fight. Like, she's pretending she wants to disappear and not be the Slayer. But let me tell you what.
You can't escape it. You know who it reminds me of, actually?
Who?
Our cat, who has been so sick for the last, 8 days. She's just been, sleeping, 90% of the day. And then she'll, get up and, half-heartedly chase a toy mouse around for, 5 seconds. And then be like, I love sleep. Bye. Today is the first day she's been back in full form. And she's been using all of the energy reserves that were not utilized for the last 8 days. She's been doing cartwheels, bouncing off the walls, trying to eat everything.
Literally pens, phones, paper, dust, everything.
She's a mess.
So yeah, this is totally great comparison.
Right, exactly.
This is Buffy. Buffy is fucking pissed. She fucking breaks in. The woman, fucking nutty woman, comes in and she's like, what are you doing? And Buffy's like, breaking into your office and going through your personal files. And she's like, you shouldn't do that. And Buffy rips the phone out of the fucking wall. It's great. It's great. And then we find out from crazy blood bank lady that she gives Ken, quote, the names of the healthy ones. The fuck?
It's pretty creepy.
It's pretty fucking weird, right? Because we don't really get the story.
No.
What are they building down there? We don't know. What are they doing down there?
Unknown.
We never know.
Unknown to this day.
Unknown to this day. I bet you if you asked that guy from Game of Thrones, he would fucking have the answer. But we didn't get it in this episode. Maybe that'll be in the finale. We'll find out about the dragons. Okay. We'll find out about so many things. We're gonna find out what the hell Ken was doing down there, and if Ken made it, because Ken probably is still alive. Oh right, no, he's not alive. You're right. I forgot about Gandhi. I was like, he only got his legs staked. Okay. Anyway. We go back to the graveyard.
Oh, yeah.
Cordy and Xander are fighting.
They are.
They're fighting. And what happens when they're fighting?
Passion? Oh, I thought you meant generally what happens when they fight. What happens when they're fighting is that passion. When they fight, Willow is listening to them and is bored and annoyed. And a vampire, of course, the vampire, Andy or Eddie, sneaks up on her and attacks her.
Yes.
Then Oz jumps in and is tossed to the side.
And then they defeat this vampire. They defeat this vampire by Cordelia pushing the vampire into the stake, which is a beautiful moment.
And they fall like a sandwich cookie. Yes. And then the vampire dustifies, and then Cordelia falls on Xander, and then we hear what I guess
It's their theme song.
It's their theme.
It is.
That is their romantic theme.
It is.
Just a really dramatic orchestral swell, and they kiss. Just like in What's My Line Part 2.
Yeah, it's great.
What a delight.
Meanwhile, Buffy, just showing us that she has not learned undercover skills between seasons at all, is at the door to Ken's house. Hey, what's with all the sin? I'm bad with the sex, she says. Right. And then she sort of becomes self-aware of her own inability to be undercover. And kicks everybody's ass to get in the door. We see the goo. We see the goo.
Right. Yep. Lily's preparing for
the ghoul, if you will.
I won't.
Okay.
Preparing for baptism. And Buffy busts in all how do you make them old, Ken?
You're right. And one more thing I want to say before we go down to the bellows of hell is in the scene with Xander and Cordelia, I just want to shout out the call out to Inca Mummy Girl.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great moment. It's not every episode when we get to hear other episodes shouted out. And Cordelia makes a comment to Xander about his love affair with Inca Mummy Girl.
Nice. Very nicely done.
So thank you for that. Now we go downstairs in the dungeon.
Yes.
I have questions here.
Okay.
First of all,
what are they doing?
But second of all, if they're disposing of the old people upstairs, why is there just a casual skeleton behind Lily? that nobody cares about at all. There's just a full skeleton.
And isn't it like on a cot?
Yes, it's just laying, like it just fell asleep there, it died there, and it decomposed there, and there's a skeleton there now. Again, with the siren showing downtown, they were like, literally, where'd you get that werewolf costume? Could you pick up a skeleton suit? Just put that on the bed.
Yeah.
Make
It's
it look
Halloween Town on Postmates.
Halloween-y, yeah. But a logistical question as well. Time moves quickly down here, right?
Yes.
Time moves, they said 100 years equals 1 day. Do you know what that is, Jenny?
Hell math.
It is, yes, it is hell math.
Hell math.
100 years equals 1 day, hell math. And what I want to know is if 100 years equals 1 day, then wouldn't a half an hour or however the fuck long they're down there equal like a couple of years? I haven't done.
No. It's 100 years down there. Equals one Earth day
upstairs.
Right.
So doesn't that?
So it's like a blink.
So
an Earth blink.
But if a day is passing upstairs while 100 years is passing downstairs,
yes,
then a half an hour has passed upstairs, which should mean that a couple.
No, why has half an hour passed upstairs? Half an hour has passed downstairs.
Oh.
You got to take into account the upstairs and the downstairs differentials when you're doing hell math.
Wow, this has been great. Okay, thank you for helping me, because I was like, Buffy is 19. She's not 17. She's not 18. She's at least 19. She might even be 20.
Wow.
Okay, great. Skeleton heads? Why do I have that written down? I don't know. Skeleton heads.
Because the guards are sort of like skeleton head-esque with like
love
sort of like
them.
flesh mask. Great.
Yes.
Character design.
Like buttoned up faces.
Yeah, love it.
So fucking cool. Then I have my notes about the many-faced gods.
Good.
And Buffy, of course. This is really, the moment in this episode where she's like, all right, you know what? Fuck this shit.
Yes.
I'm Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and you are? She
Yeah.
says. She tells Lily she can handle this. Lily has this great moment, which we didn't talk about with Julia, and I just want to say for 1 second, where she's like, I'm sorry about that thing I did before. And Buffy's like, not now, Lily. And Lily's like, but just in case we die.
Very practical.
Yes.
And responsible. I love it.
And then we get this great fight scene.
Yay. One Slayer, a bajillion Skeletors. Who will emerge the victor?
The Slayer will.
The Slayer. There's... Right. Oh my God. Once she gets hold of that rounded axe thing, and I believe she slices someone, and then she like throws it up in the air or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's how she gets
catches it. Yeah.
She puts her hand up so long
for 6 hours.
She doesn't have that kind of time. She's in the middle of a fight.
But it's like a great comedic moment if you imagine what's happening, that everyone's just watching.
Yeah, all of the Skeletors are like, it would be rude to interrupt.
And right, so she's fighting. Ken is flipping out. You're not supposed to fight. People aren't supposed to fight.
Right.
That's not how this works. Now, he says, and this is, I haven't told you, Jenny, but this is my sexual tension award moment. He says to Buffy, you've got guts. I think I'd like to slice you open and play with them. I would like to award the sexual tension award to Ken and Buffy.
It's too disgusting for me to argue.
I'm sorry. It's just, not because of him wanting to slice her guts open or whatever, but because of the way he looks at her before he says it. He's like, I'm kind of into this girl. What? He is. You go back, you watch. He's just
once he pulls off his face and also his sort of like youth pastor attitude.
Yeah.
He has this sort of like, he just like gets really fierce.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
And I feel like, it really feeds into what you're talking about.
He's just like, I like this girl. She can fight. I'm going to kill her, but man, do I like her. So in an episode where I felt there wasn't much sexual tension, I'm placing it here.
So he brings the fight to a screeching halt by holding a knife to Lily's throat. And then he's like, this is the price of rebellion. One of you fights back, you all die. Which, frankly, I feel like would deplete his workforce in a way that would actually like be very bad for him
Right.
to do. So I think
probably
he's
the case
partially
when anyone
bluffing.
says that, right?
Right. One of you fights and you all die.
Yeah, probably
Sure.
they don't actually want that, but
Then he foolishly lets her go to continue his monologue.
well,
And-
because he has this belief, right? He really believes that like these young people are so lost that they don't have the capacity to
Right.
fight back, which is why Buffy is such an anomaly.
Right. And then what happens?
And then, oh, Lily pushes him right off the fucking edge.
Hell
in
yes.
In like this moment that's so, it's like almost anticlimactic, you know, in a brilliant way. And just like this, like, you know what? Fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Pushes him down.
Anticlimactic from like what we're accustomed to seeing in this show and shows like it, but like really climactic for Lily, who is stepping up and being really assertive and just sort of like taking the bull by the horns and pushing the bull off of a ledge.
Fuck
Great.
yeah, Lily. And then, you know, of course, Buffy picks up the gate, lets everybody out, drops the gate on Ken's legs, channels Gandhi.
Right.
In a moment of destroying Ken, which was a funny, weird little thing.
Okay, then they escape.
Yeah.
And the tar pit seals itself up, leaving hundreds of humans downstairs.
Jenny, do you think that's what's underneath the tar pits? It's in Los Angeles. It's here.
Wow.
The clues point in one direction.
Wow.
And that direction is perhaps
the La Brea tar pits?
Yeah, the La Brea tar pits.
Okay, we'll have to do a special field trip episode
where Kristen goes underneath the La Brea tar pits.
Please don't.
Okay. So then we have this ending scene, which we talked about with Julia as well. But, you know, this is a moment where Buffy is like literally, but also figuratively handing over her strength to Lily.
Right.
And by the way, we didn't mention Buffy's middle name is Anne. That's the thing. So, so Lily becomes Anne. Anne restores to Buffy, or Buffy, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody gets a new name. And,
well said.
And Buffy goes home. And before she gets there, Joyce is
just doing some dishwasher maintenance.
So it was a really great moment for everybody in this room.
Joyce Summers
just doing a little handiwork around the house.
The dishwasher.
Probably is about to hang out with Pat. Just kidding, we're not there yet. Ugh. Okay, she's fixing the dishwasher. And then the doorbell rings, or there's a knock at the door.
I believe there's a knock.
There's a knock at the door, and it's Buffy. And that's how...
And their faces.
Yes. And that's how we end this episode. She's home. And obviously there's a lot to unpack now that she's home. But the biggest thing is that she's home.
Hell yes.
Wow. Okay. So this was a fantastic episode.
Yes, it was.
And we are almost ready to wrap up this here episode of this podcast. But before we do, we promised many of you that we would talk about the situation that was uncovered between Joss and Joss's ex-wife. Now, I want to say that this is something we normally wouldn't talk about if it was, came to light that Joss had affairs during his marriage or what have you. It's really not the kind of thing we traffic in.
Right. It's like a hard line to discern what is and is not our business. But in this case,
yes,
a party to this information decided to make it the world's business. So what do we do with it?
Exactly. And I think that the reason that we're deciding to talk about it is because of that, because somebody who is involved in it made it our business. And so now it is in our orbit and we have to digest it. And two, it's not just about an affair. If it was just about an affair, we still wouldn't be talking about it. But there are elements to this. Kai, Joss's ex-wife, shared some letters that were written towards the end of the marriage or as the marriage was ending or after the marriage had ended. And there were things in those letters that were very troublesome. First of all, one troublesome layer of this is the power dynamics that exist between a director, especially a very powerful director, and that director's actors, that director's fans, and so on and so forth. So that's something. And then there's another layer of this, which is that in those letters, there was an element of evolutionary reasoning of like, oh, well, I am a man, and so it is in my instincts to sort of follow these behaviors. Now, I think that Jenny and I both, having our own relationship and certainly understanding that there are a lot of intimate things that happen in relationships that we cannot possibly understand from just excerpts from letters, we know that there's a lot here.
Yeah.
But this exists, and this is big because Joss Whedon is positioned as a very powerful feminist director, feminist writer, feminist creator, and we are doing a very feminist show about one of his creations.
Right.
So, what do we do with this? I think that first, it's important to say that neither Jenny or myself have ever really held up Joss singularly as the only reason that Buffy the Vampire Slayer exists, and also as a perfect feminist. This is certainly not the first time that something has come to light that sort of has said,
Interesting.
this might not be exactly what it says it is. You know, there may be other things at work here. And so I think that for us, learning this information was very disappointing, of course, very upsetting, very concerning on so many levels. But it also was not like, oh no, now the entire canon of work that Joss is connected to is dead to us or isn't valuable to us.
Right. It's like this creator versus creation thing. Does somebody's disappointments as a human being take away the power that millions of people have gained from watching this incredible show, which is the product of the hard work and sweat of
thousands.
So many people.
Right.
So many people work to make this show what it is.
Yeah, we see you, Marty Noxon. You know what I'm saying? And so many others. I mean, Marty Noxon comes to mind because we love Marty Noxon. But so many people, the actors, the crew, the writers, there are so many people who put energies into this particular show, but all of the creations that Joss has a hand in that have shaped it well past what he himself would have done. And so I think that, and this is, this has come up so many times in our life, right? The Cosby Show is something that I think immediately came to my mind. Now, this is very different, obviously. It's a very, very, very different set of circumstances. But, I hold up the Cosby Show as a part of the 1980s canon of television that did things that were not being done and that brought people into my living room that I would have never learned about. Dizzy Gillespie, Lena Horne, that show worked actively to bring Black artists and creators into the
living
homes.
rooms of millions of people.
Yes, into the living rooms of millions of people. And that's important. And so, I look at this through a similar lens where Jenny and I exist in this world. We share space with all of you. We've stood in Union Hall in New York. We've stood at Nerd Melt in Los Angeles. We've stood in an auditorium in Wisconsin during A Camp with so many of you, knowing that this means something to us and this means something to you. And we are certainly not near to the first people to sit within a community of people united by Buffy the Vampire Slayer or by other creations that Joss has had a hand in. And those communities can't just disappear. The power that we have together doesn't just disappear because someone has really crossed boundaries and really done some pretty awful things. That doesn't go away. I think that's the most important thing to both of us to say is that we're not going anywhere. I love Buffy just as much as I did before any of this came to light.
Same.
But we also, we talk about the patriarchy a lot. We talk about feminism a lot. We talk about queer issues a lot. And so I think that it is important that we also just touch. Somebody sent us an email, and a few of you sent us similar notes to this one, but I'm just going to read a small section. Anna P. sent us an email that said, I read an interview with Nicholas Brendan where he said that Xander was Joss. He was the character that Joss saw himself as and was his way of writing himself into the story. If we look at Xander knowing what we know now about Joss, it makes his problematic aspects much worse. His sense of whining entitlement for Buffy's affections, his casual asking for lap dances, his other patriarchal comments. Xander is where Joss let his ugly side out. Those are my thoughts. Thanks for what you do. Your sister in patriarchal smashing, Anna. So I bring this up because this is interesting, because this is something that throughout seasons 1 and 2, we have tried to unpack and not connected to Joss. And we're certainly don't worry that we're going to bring up Joss Whedon every time we talk about Xander now. We're not. But I think that there is something here. There is something here. And this is something that I've been trying to get to the heart of. And I think you have too, Jenny, which is that we at no point have we ever attempted to say hey, Xander is a bad, evil person, right? Xander doesn't do anything right. Xander doesn't do anything good. But we've been trying to look at some of the things that Xander does and say, this is problematic, and we really feel like it's important to call out the fact that this is problematic, because if not called out, what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if not called out, things like we have seen unfold with Joss and his ex-wife Kai is exactly the kind of thing that happens, right? And that's why we will continue on this show to take a hard look at some of these patriarchal moments, some of these moments that net all of us. And we've said that about Xander, you know, that it's not just like, you know, Xander is the proponent of evil. He's also caught in this net.
Right.
And so I think that it's really important that we look at that we look at Xander, that we look at the other patriarchal aspects of the show, because they are here and they're created by Joss and others. We all sit inside of this, you know, patriarchal pot, if you will.
I will. Well, I'd rather not.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather
since I have
not
no choice in the matter.
Yes, and you know, teaspoon by teaspoon, Jenny and I are trying to empty the pot of patriarchal water. Is that where my metaphor is going?
Was great.
But
so you keep listening. We'll keep unpacking.
Yes. And we are open to, you know, hearing your thoughts as well. You know, you had a very active conversation on Facebook about this, and I think it is worth discussion. I do really think that it's worth discussion, and it is disappointing. And you know, I don't think that it affects our viewing of the show, but it might affect yours, and that's okay. So we are sticking with it. We are super, super excited about the rest of these seasons ahead of us.
We are.
And again, you know, send us an email if you have more thoughts, bufferingthevampireslayer@gmail.com. And we're about to go into season 3, episode 2, which is a live episode, and we're very excited.
Yeah. But until then, I'm Jenny Owen Youngs, and when I'm not watching Buffy, I am writing songs. You can learn more about me and hear some of those songs at jennyowenyoungs.com/buffering, and you can give me a shout on Twitter at Jenny Owen Youngs.
And I am Kristen Russo. You can find out all about me over on Twitter or on Instagram or on my website, all found at Kristen Noeline. That's KristinnOeline, in case any of you have forgotten how to spell that over the long break. You can also find out more about my work with LGBT young people and their families over at everyoneisgay.com and mykidisgay.com.
We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at BufferingCast, and you can always drop us an email at bufferingthevampireslayer@gmail.com.
Yes, and you can support us in many, many ways. I will give you a few right now. The first way, and I think probably one of the more important ways, is over on our Patreon page. Patreon is a place where you can support us and get fun things in exchange. If you give anything to us at all, you become part of the secret Facebook group, which is a very fun place to chat with other Buffy files. And at the $5 level, you get the song every week, so you don't have to wait until the end of the season, which this year, I don't even know that we're done until like April or something. So you can get the songs week by week as they come out at the $5 level, and you can read all about the other perks over at Patreon. You can find that link over on our website, bufferingthevampireslayer.com. Just click on Patreon and you'll find out all of the fun details. You can also buy our shirts or our pins or anything else that you'd like that has anything to do with the patriarchy and where it intersects with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Just click on shop over on our website and find all of those goodies. I want to just send some reminders your way before we leave. Is that all right, Jenny?
Yes.
I want to send a reminder out to you that we are doing a September fundraiser. We have 5 lyric sheets handwritten by Jenny and myself that will be sent out to you if you would like to purchase them. And 100% of those proceeds are going to help the relief in Houston, Texas, after Hurricane Harvey. Also, a reminder that this Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, we will be doing a party to celebrate the 1 million download mark that we hit at the end of season 2. We're very excited. You can find out all of those details on our website. And something we didn't mention at the start of the show is that we went to FlameCon and we had a blast. And up on our Patreon page, and this is for everyone, you don't have to be a patron of ours. You can just go on over to the page to check it out. You can see some photos that the incredible Heather Hogan took of us while we were over in New York celebrating with all of the other wonderful queer creators at FlameCon. And also, Heather Hogan, while she was there at FlameCon, was following us around writing a beautiful, incredibly powerful, just fucking perfect profile on Jenny and myself for autostraddle.com. That link is over there on our Patreon page.
It's like a bajillion word essay of just the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me, followed by the nicest thing anyone's ever said about Kristen, and then that just sort of repeats.
Yeah, it's really, Heather Hogan is just just amazing. I mean, Heather Hogan is like one of my favorite writers in the entire universe. So getting the chance to have her write about our life and our work on this very podcast was very special. There's a lot of fun information in there. Everything from like what our week looks like in terms of production to like Jenny and her feelings about capes. So I highly suggest that you go on over there and check it out if you haven't already. And I think that's all we have.
Gee whiz. First episode down. Thanks for joining us. Till next time. Ooh. One room living downtown LA, slinging pockets. I ran away in a waitress uniform with a name tag light. There's people all around me, but I don't look them in the eye. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Had too many of these bad dreams, dread unshakable memories, and it seems like I won't find the peace I need. 'Cause even when I'm hiding out, the lost ones come to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I came here just to be alone, but I wonder what it's like at home. Yeah, the sirens keep me up all night. Wherever I go, my fight's still there to fight. So I followed them underground, found myself on the long way down, and I got my fight back, cutting demons up. Yeah, it still hurts, but it don't tear me up now quite as much. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I came here just to be alone, but I'm happy to be going home. Yeah, the sirens kept me up all night. Wherever I go, my fight's still there to fight. Wherever I go, my fight's still there to fight. Can't be no one if someone will fight for you. Can't be no one if someone will fight for you. Can't be no one if someone will fight for you. Can't be no one if someone will fight for you.
Hi, I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life. I talked to acclaimed director and executive producer Roland Emmerich,
When I saw the first race, I was like giddy.
actor Ewan Ryan,
For an actor, that's a dream, although you do get a lot of sand in your sandals.
and so many more.
You helped summon those ghosts back onto that stage.
Every day when I went to set, I was giggling about like what I saw.
I think it's going to be a breathtaking thing.
People will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Ah, the web tool. Those that both creators and were created by the threads disentangle from the fringes. to feast on the very thing that spawned them.
What's up, Timmy? This is how you deal with weird!
No! Do not harm my children!
Oh, you lost a feather. Can I keep it?
No, you can't force me to!
Do you know what lies within nothing?
Rocket is in trouble, Akasa. Can we turn on the windshield remotely?
No, she could lose her job as an Akasar.
I don't fear Vehar.
No, but you fear me. If you intend to trick me, I will not hesitate to sever the oath bond entirely.
Why didn't you help me?
Coward! I don't have a parachute! I don't like free falling!
Counterbalance, a high fantasy audio drama. Season 2, coming 15th of October 2023. Learn more on trilunas.com.